by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly did an outstanding job. And I hate to say this, but when it comes to Ferrari, will Ferrari make him number one till the end of the season? Because we're past the halfway mark. Kimi has got 55 points.
Well, you know, if the Hungarian Grand Prix was 2 laps shorter, he would have gone 2 races in a row. So this is a tremendous job. And like you, I'm not a big Massa fan, but you know, I don't diss anybody, or I'm not going to lose sleep if he wins the championship. But things are looking very good for him. You know, today in practice in Monza, he was fastest, or in testing, I should say. So, and good news for all the Massa nets, you know, all these people who want me to eat a crow.
Yeah.
That crow has taken off from Sao Paulo's Congonhas International.
And I heard his flight is on time.
Yeah, he's coming non-stop directly to San Francisco, and I hear he's traveling business class, so he'll be well rested and very tasty.
Not only that, but he's expecting a clean white Camry.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work. Now let's quickly go to lap 15. This is where Massa pits, and Hamilton takes the lead of the race. But Hamilton pits on the following lap. I thought, wow, maybe he's going to have a few laps in the bag, but sure, he didn't. And the big news for me was when Massa came out of the pits, he comes out in front of Kimi Räikkönen. Full tank. Räikkönen does not have a full tank. You would think that Ferrari either would tell Massa, let Räikkönen by because he needs to put in some good laps, or Räikkönen would just get by on skill. That didn't happen now.
Well, especially considering, you know, Massa's out in the pig, he's full of gas, which means he's going to be at least a half a second slower. You would think that Räikkönen could have gotten him at least on speed alone, but never really even challenges him.
No. And Räikkönen, once again, is in one of those slumps. I call it the Heinfeld slump.
Well, you know, he has not won a race since April, okay, which is a long time ago, and Massa now has twice as many wins as Räikkönen. Who would have thought that? And I was at Sears Point in Finion Raceway over the weekend, and I ran into Howden Genley, the ex-Grand Prix driver from New Zealand, and he asked me, what do you make of Kimi Räikkönen this season? And I said, you know, at $25 million, Jenson Button is the highest paid driver based on performance of this year. And I said, at $50 million a year, Kimi Räikkönen is the highest paid number 2 driver. And he said, oh, he's making that kind of money? I said, yeah. And he just could not believe that F1 drivers these days are making this kind of money. $50 million for this kind of performance, it's way beyond pathetic. And you know, if you have a problem like he did in France, or maybe won another race, but not to have a win since Spain, that's very bad.
I know, but the only thing I do like about Kimi Räikkönen, he doesn't come up with excuses.
Yeah, very true.
Oh, I was blocked in qualifying.
Yeah, very true.
Oh, you know, the setup of the car, the team screwed me up. He never does that.
Well,
Unlike Nick Heidfeld, Nick Heidfeld always has somebody blocking him in qualifying. And you know, maybe he does. But, you know, I certainly don't want to go back on the Nick Heidfeld bashing, which I did a few weeks ago, excuse me.
But you know, the thing about Räikkönen, he does have the renaissance factor. He can come back. This is still the guy.
It's true.
That was 26 points down, 17 points down, 2 races to go. But now you have to, you know, to me, this looks like the Scheckter syndrome of 1980. Jody Scheckter, you know.
Exactly, his lost interests.
Yeah, his background was Räikkönen. He came from nothing, won the championships in '79, and then in '80, just even though he did not have a competitive car, but you know, the fire, the desire was there, and he says this himself.
And not only that, but see, when the man who replaced Michael Schumacher begins to not show the interest, the scenario with showing up in the Alpine Stars suit instead of the Puma suit, you begin to develop a chill in the paddock.
Yeah.
And the team behind you is going to have issues with you. And if Montezemolo has issues with you, it's not going to be a happy family in there.
Wearing an Alpine Star to Ferrari team paracaria is like you coming here in a NASCAR t-shirt, you know, or a number 8 t-shirt.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, number 8 was Fernando's number, though.
Who?
No, Fernando, he was a world champion a few years ago.
Was.
Yeah.
Till he ran into a rookie.
Yeah. Oh boy! You know, I was going to bring that drummer over just for that specific. Okay, let's move on. Lap 24. Massa's lead is up 1 seconds. Impressive, and he's doing an outstanding job. And this is where the race really gets boring for me, guys. I'm sorry, but I started playing pinochle.
Well, there wasn't much passing. There really
What passing?
There weren't even any really good trains this week, as we typically would see behind Jenson Button or Rubens Barrichello. So it's just kind of one car at a time. You know, it's like watching slot cars, and more so than usual.
Okay, now the excitement does come up at lap 38 when Massa is released in the pits, and he's being, apparently it was sort of an unsafe release, and now he's being investigated. He's in the lead, and the investigation, and what we call here at F1 Weekly, the FIA conspiracy begins. And it reminded me of, I don't know, I thought it wasn't a big deal, but since the race really had no excitement, the excitement was in the pits.
Well, they mentioned on the Speed TV broadcast, a similar thing happened in GP2 race when Indian driver Karun Chandra cut in front of somebody. And
Exactly.
I saw that, pass, the move again and again. And sure enough, he just cuts in front of him, and Massa did not do that.
No, he slowed down for Sutil. No advantage gained, so I think the penalty was fair, which we will talk about later. But the only other action was, of course, the bad luck of Kimi Räikkönen in the pits on lap 43. Kimi Räikkönen and Heikki Kovalainen pit together, and once again, Räikkönen's miserable weekend continues because he pulls away with the fuel rig still in the car, which is unusual for Kimi Räikkönen. Very unusual.
And they showed that video where the light was still red when he...
The
exactly.
lights never changed.
Exactly. So first they blamed Ferrari, the automated pit stop, that's crazy. But in the end, it was Kimi Räikkönen's fault.
They were partly blaming that because they had a report that had been deactivated after Massa's pit for some reason, that it was malfunctioning or something to that regard. And you watch the videotape and it never changes, and he starts to pull away, takes one of his fuel riggers with him. Basically, the guy smacks himself on a tire and ends up having to be taken away on a stretcher.
Yeah, but he was okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, he was.
And sure enough, it's just, sometimes I try to understand what is going on in Kimi Räikkönen's mind, and nobody can.
No, he hardly says anything, so you're not going to figure it out. And then, the engine failing, that provided him a smoke screen for his lackluster performance.
Exactly. And of course, on lap 46, Kimi Räikkönen's engine blows. It's a sad state of affairs, especially at such a great track. Everybody's hyping it up, even though I thought it was a boring race, and I can't wait for Spa.
Well, previous race was Massa having an engine failure. Now it's Räikkönen, and what goes around comes around.
Exactly.
Guess who's on eggshells now?
Oh my God, Massa?
No, the guy who might be, Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton's going to the DNF Chapel this weekend, that's for sure.
No, and let's talk about Hamilton. A lot more maturity. He's talking about, I know I need to just get the points, not worry about winning every race, because sometimes he was just so focused on that he would make too many mistakes. And
he needs to watch the first few laps of the Brazilian Grand Prix last year when he tried to make that move on Alonso.
Fernando.
Yeah, that was
the
dumb move.
It was the dumbest. He could have won the championship.
Dumb move of the decade.
That and trying to compete on bald tires in wet conditions.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it looks like Hamilton is learned his lesson. A good second for him. Got his 8 points. He's still in the lead in the championship.
The amazing thing is he has again increased his lead, like previous race also. He had not a good race, but because Massa dropped out, so he increased his lead. After this race, he increases by 1 point. The second place guy has changed.
Exactly.
So he's been very lucky last 2 races.
Oh, I agree. So now Massa is 6 points behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship with 64 points. Räikkönen is in 4th with 57. And Kubica is still in there with 55 points. Has a shot if everybody really starts crumbling.
Yeah, he kind of needs the guys at the top to kind of fade. Ferrari seems to be trying to get a little too much out of their motors lately, so maybe that could come to his benefit. I understand that Hamilton wasn't actually feeling his best at this race, something about a neck injury.
Yeah.
And there were also a couple of drivers, there were issues with a flu bug going through the paddock.
So I call those excuses, Stephen.
Well, of course, they usually are. But again, even if he was not feeling well, he still ran a really good race, finishing over 35 seconds or 32 seconds ahead of Robert Kubica in 3rd. Good to see BMW kind of get back at the top of the charts again. They've been kind of absent for since Canada, really. And so good to see them getting back into the race.
And speaking